This is Jack Maxey in the War Room, Capitol Hill. I've got Stephen Bannon and Rahim Kassam to my left, my wingman Vish Burra on the right, and we've got Dr. Zelenko still on the line, crushing it with his analysis of hydroxychloroquine and some of the larger politics and morality plays that are at issue here. Dr. Zelenko, you were just talking about doctors and HCQ, and it reminded me of Harvey Rich's exhortation to this entire audience, because we all know that there are many doctors out there who are taking this prophylactically, and many of them are afraid to even talk about it inside their own hospitals for fear of becoming victims of a kind of medical cancel culture. And I'd love for you to touch on that topic, if you would, Dr. Zelenko, and continue with your thought.
Yeah, I think the next step here is to fight propaganda with propaganda. We need some very, very wealthy patriot to sponsor the best PR firm possible, and to get us people that know how to organize movements, and so that we can literally march on Washington, because doctors are terrible at business and organization. We focus on treating patients. So I know personally hundreds of doctors that use it for themselves, for their families, and for patients, but they would never go public because they will immediately lose their jobs, especially if they're hired by a big hospital like Mount Sinai or NYU. So they're scared for their livelihoods. So, and I'm going to say this, I know it's a difficult thing to do, but I think it's time now for people on the front lines to choose what's right for their patients and what's right for humanity in this country, even if it puts your credentials at risk. You know, a soldier on the front line could get shot, and we cannot hide behind our fears. Maybe something bad will happen to us. That's the problem. Not enough people are taking leadership of the movement for truth. So we need people that know how to organize, and we need good PR to be able to counteract the propaganda of the forces of evil. And they are evil. This is a fight for the soul of the country. You know, does human life have value? Is it divine? Or is it completely random, and you could have a price put to it? So the forces of evil, they make decisions that, yes, there's a price they're willing to pay for political wins. There's a price that they're willing to pay for profit. There's a price that they're willing to pay for academic arrogance. Whereas the forces of good say, what are you talking about? The soul of the human being is made in the image of God, and that is its claim to human rights. Natural law is based on it, that we're made in God's image. So this is a fight between fundamental forces that has been a recurrent fight. There's nothing new under the sun throughout history. It's just right now it took the form of COVID-19. But fundamentally, when you get to the...
Just in summary, we know that the president started using this because of your recommendation and your profile and how successful you had been. If you were able to advise the president today, because you said people around him were maybe telling him they're afraid of the polls, if you were able to talk to the president today, what would be the 2 or 3 things you would tell him, the actions he has to take in order to do the right thing here?
Number one, he has to put out an executive order that removes any state restrictions on the use of hydroxychloroquine, either by doctors or pharmacies, and that they won't be prosecuted, because that's a big problem. Number 2, we need to have enough drug in this country, and the logistics, it has to be distributed in a way that any doctor could use it, and every pharmacy will have it. That's just logistics. That's very important. And number 3, he needs to direct the FDA. He's not a doctor, so he can't make medical decisions, but he has to direct the FDA to completely focus now on outpatient intervention. And by the way, there's so much data available that it overqualifies for emergency use authorization according to the FDA internal documents. So there's absolutely zero reason why we don't have approved, or at least EUA supported therapeutics in the outpatient, except for the fact that it serves the interests of some people, that people end up in the hospital.
Last question. They're projecting, I think we're going to hit 180,000 dead here in a week or so. They're projecting all types of numbers of dead. If your program was implemented today, how big an impact would it have on these and the aggregate number of deaths and the death rate?
So I'm going to give you a very conservative estimate. I rather underpromise and overproduce. So the most conservative estimate I could tell you is an 84% reduction in the need for hospitalization. 84% reduction in the need for hospitalization if you initiate treatment within the first 5 days and better within the first 2 days. And a five-fold reduction in death. In other words, the high-risk patients in this country have a 5% chance of dying. My data showed a 0.71% death rate. So it was more than a five-fold reduction in death. Essentially, it turns COVID-19 into like any other health issue, like the flu or something like that. So my recommendation would be to implement these policies immediately, and then you can reopen the economy probably within a week, because there will be an upspike in cases because people begin to intermingle. But so what? You identify the high-risk patients, be ready to treat them if needed, and then problem solved. It just takes some political courage and some people willing to sacrifice and take leadership roles.
Doctor, you were talking about how the numbers are going to come out eventually. I believe, like you, that 6 months from now, the tail of the tape is going to prove this to everybody. But many people will have died in the intervening amount of time. Why would you think that these academics, these people in the mainstream media, some politicians, etc., is this kind of like the ancient Greek theory of hubris, and they're just going to fall on their swords here? I mean, what possibly could be their rationale?
Well, at this point, so many people have blood on their hands that they have to dig in because they have no other choice. They're going to be exposed. So they're cornered animals that have dug in. That's really what's going on now. It's an instinct for self-preservation. However, most of it, Steve is going to like this, is coming from China. China is one of the biggest donors to Yale University, to Harvard, as your previous guest mentioned, that they essentially control the media in this country. And China is nothing more than a representation of Marxist ideology, which is essentially rooted in the non-existence of God, because they believe that the state is all-powerful, the government is all-powerful. And that is a problem, because people believe in God, they may not listen to the state. So this is a tension between God-centered people and people that are focused on power and hungry for power. So essentially, that's what's going on here. It's a good versus evil, light versus dark battle. And at this point, people have to be ready to sacrifice. Even if you have to sacrifice your life, but it may be worth it, because otherwise there's going to be really millions of unnecessary dead people. So, this is World War III. More than 200 countries are fighting the same enemy. I don't know how much more World War you get than that. It's it's an invisible enemy. So.
Dr. Zelenko, how can people get to do you have social media? How can people get to more of your Facebook and all that? Can you give it to us? Because I know the audience's head's blown up right now. And the mainstream media's head's going to blow up as soon as they see our tweeting your segments out.
I'm mostly on Twitter. It's at ZEB, Zebra Elephant Victor, _ DR, Dr. DR.
You're a great man, a great patriot, and we hope your health is hanging in there. So you take care of yourself. Your country needs you. Mankind needs you in this fight for good and evil. You're on the side of the angels, sir. So take care of yourself.
Thank you, guys. God bless you.
God bless you.
Dr. Zelenko, he's already done it in the front line where he saved the community up in New York at the very beginning days of this. I think it was in February we were talking about Dr. Zelenko in March, right?
I mean, portrait in courage, this guy. he's had 2 major operations in the last 3 weeks. He's not backing down.
No,
You
still
want this.
working
You
for
want this guy in the fighting hole right next to you because he is never going to quit.
I have a couple of martinis and it knocks me out.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it. Honestly, it's incredible.
How can we be here, particularly on when it's rubbing our nose every day, evidence-based, science-based, database? Here's how phony that is. It's pretty phony. Natalie Winters and Raheem Kassam and the team of the National Pulse, we start talking about this. Let's go to what their policies are when they present them, not just the happy talk, right? We want unity, we want diversity, we want all this. But let's talk about what the real policies are. They were policy light last week. The one of the few things we picked up is they did say, "Oh, I've got a pandemic plan from March." From March. That's like having something in a war that I've got from pre-Napoleonic times. It's not relevant, right? Because in data-based, evidence-based, science-based, Dr. Sanjay Gupta and CNN and all the guys, it's called learning curve. New things happen every day, and we're much smarter today than we were in March. And that's not pointing the finger at anybody. People made mistakes, et cetera. It's just a fact of how modern technological life goes through. You have more information, you have more data, you can analyze, right? More evidence. And so what does Joe Biden's staff do? They pull out his March strategic plan. Now, if this plan was brilliant, because remember when he put it out, nobody talked about it in March, but if it was absolutely brilliant, and particularly if you sat there and go, wow, this guy was like war and pandemic. This was signal, not noise. This was tomorrow's news today. This guy nailed it. He and his staff nailed it. I think not. And that's not coming from us. That's coming from them, because here's the tell. They got his wingman, Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, is currently inbound. And what's she coming to Washington, D.C. to do? She do a pre-buttal. I think the timing is a pre-buttal.
That's right.
It's a pre-buttal where she's this afternoon, and the buried lead, you got to go down 9 paragraphs. What is she there to talk about? Oh, she's there. The centerpiece of it is going to be a rebuttal of his COVID-19, because they think over the last 3 nights on TV, he's painted a picture of a leader in action and all that. Jump in here, Raheem.
They realize that they're missing something quite a lot. The Democrat Party is on every issue where the Republican Party has been on healthcare. That is to say that they're willing to complain about everything but don't offer a real solution to anything. And if Joe Biden had come up with a decent plan, you would have heard about it here in the War Room. We would have given them credit for it. We're also getting on the hashtag War and Pandemic a lot of videos and comments from people in the Lake Charles area, Louisiana, showing us some incredible
Let's come back
footage.
next. I tell you what, we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
In the next break, I want to do that. This is what we love about you guys. We're actually working on an app at one time so I can make it easier for you. But this is what we love about you. You're the most informed audience out there, and you've got power. You've got stroke. You can tell that over the last couple of days of the Chinese Communist Party, and we can pull South China Morning Post, all this, their heads, but the People's Daily, Global Times, they're in full meltdown because they have now people standing on stages, and particularly they had a Chinese person last night that said, you're an enemy to humanity. Not China, not the Chinese people. The Chinese people are the innocent victims of this. It is the Chinese Communist Party, and man, they're freaking out. That's because you're this audience, and quite frankly, Harris is on a plane because of this audience too. We've talked about this for a couple of days now. They know they got a problem. That problem is they got to do a pre-buttal.
By the way, there's an app for sale if you need it. It's called TikTok. We could just use that.
TikTok. Okay, that's good. I'll keep the net frag from Natalie Winters. Natalie Winters got her scalp this morning. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break and we'll be back with your footage and Weather Nation on the hurricane.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Hurricane Laura brings a catastrophic storm surge and fearsome winds to Gulf Coast. That's a headline in NPR. We've got Weather Nation, our affiliated site to Americans Voice.news, the great team there in Denver that helps us get this show up every day. For our radio audiences, there's insane footage now we're getting, and this is from the hashtag War Room Pandemic crowd and also Weather Nation. Raheem, I'm going to kick it to you to describe to our radio audience and to the TV audience exactly what they're seeing right now. It's pretty stunning.
Well, firstly, I wanted to thank the War on Pandemic crowd for bringing this to our attention, both on the hashtag War on Pandemic and in the YouTube live chat, for bringing this breaking news and footage to our attention. This is really incredible audience that we have here taking part in even producing this show now. So this footage that we're seeing appears to be from a chemical plant in Lake Charles, Louisiana. So you're looking at seeds that are flowing over the I-10 in extremely dangerous and concerning situations about 3 miles outside of Lake Charles, near what I'm being told is near oil refineries also, but a massive fire breaking out just off that Interstate 10. Look, we're looking at this. There are some reports coming out where the Nation reporting on Twitter that this is related to a chemical leak or biohazard situation. We're monitoring that situation as well, but I know this is literally breaking right now.
I want to thank everybody at hashtag War on Pandemic in the live feed. Keep sending us videos, keep sending us clips. We're going to put them up. Also, the guys over at Weather Nation. Look, Lake Charles is one of the, as you know, Jack, one of the most important refinery complexes in the country. That you get problems there, and they said at the beginning, market oil prices and gasoline prices were down, thinking of loss of demand. But hey, you lose some of these big petrochemical facilities and gasoline facilities. You're going to have refineries. You're going to have big problems. So Lake Charles hit pretty bluntly with this with Hurricane Laura. I want to thank everybody for sending us the footage. We're going to put more up as we go. Any other, Vish? We have any other details of what's happening down there?
Nothing confirmed, but there seems to a few hours ago there was news breaking of a Sasol Ltd chemical plant that was being shut down because it was in the hurricane's path. So there is a possibility that this is actually that this may be the plant that's currently on fire.
Okay, want to continue to see that, Raheem?
Yeah, I'm just literally looking at the live streams at the moment. This is. We talked about at the beginning of the show how it made landfall at 5 a.m. in the morning this morning, and it reminded
Central Time.
Yeah, it reminded me of those scenes. By the way, I don't know if we have this clip, but from 2016, I actually went back and pulled the clip of when I went down to Louisiana to cover the flooding down there, and like you said, I think you even said this before we were on the show. You get 100-mile-an-hour, 110-mile-an-hour. I think it was higher than that to begin with. I mean, that is doing some real damage. That's doing some serious damage. And I think we have, Jack, some news about fatalities as well that's been coming out. I think 2 fatalities now so far that have been reported. 2
fatalities. One guy who was preparing and I got electrocuted putting up boards on his house, and then very tragically overnight, a 14-year-old girl was killed in Louisiana. I'm looking at this stuff online concerning this. What's interesting is they're not defining what company it is. They're not defining whether it's a refinery or just a chemical plant. They're now saying that they're telling people to stay off of I-10. It looks like they're going to have to cut I-10, close I-10 on that bridge across Lake Charles. So developing story, but we know the people down there in Louisiana are tough, and they're going to overcome this too.
And I just want to make sure people realize the footage that's on your screens now, that's from 2016. I want to give you an example of just how bad the damage can be and how much lives can be ruined when these things get out of control, when the flooding gets out of control. And we knew down there back then the political implications that it had at the time ahead of the 2016 elections.
Well, didn't want it to be Katrina too. So,
right.
I mean, President Trump was very bold, went down there. I think it was Tony Perkins, who's from Louisiana, set up an amazing visit for him. Hillary Clinton made a decision not to go. Or she did. She went later, but not at that time. So it was very impressive. Also, this is going to go up to the Mid-South, and at least the cone right now is going to take a hard right because I guess the jet stream. And for those in the John Fredericks radio audience, it's supposed to on Saturday be in Virginia and be Washington D.C. and also down at Tidewater, Hampton Roads, etc. So we don't know because these things, it's nature; it always changes. But people ought to stay on top of this. But there's going to be a lot of damage down in. In Louisiana, and the prayers are with the folks down there. Be safe. Hashtag War on Pandemic. If you have any any information, let us see it.
What really stunned me when I went down there was the community spirit and the Cajun Navy and the people who were pulling people.
One had the Franklin Graham group down there.
Yep.
The Samaritan's Purse, all that. Yep.
And just all the effort.
The Gator Navy. Is it called the Gator Navy? I remember that.
Yeah,
Cajun Navy.
Cajun Navy.
Cajun, I remember this. Yep.
Yeah, the people that they would put themselves into harm's way to help people out, to help save their property, to help save their things that they have accrued over their lives with sentimental value that were just getting wrecked and ruined, in addition to their houses, their cars, their everything else. So, I hope if there's damage like that we're going to see as a result of Hurricane Laura, then we're going to see the same heroes come back out.
Let's talk, and by the way, so let's sum up. Talk about in harm's way. I want to get back to the convention. I want to get back to politics. The CCP has been extraordinary what's happened. But we can't just walk away from Dr. Zelenko. That was powerful. And here's what I like about Zelenko and Risch and Harvey Risch and these people, the doctor you had on yesterday. They're not giving up. In fact, they're getting they're taking it to the next level. Because they realize it's not just about November 3rd. This is about kind of how we are going forward, right? You either got to believe in something or you don't believe in something. And these guys are some of the most prestigious universities around, et cetera. And they are saying, hey, why are we squandering this? Even if mistakes were made in the past, why are we squandering lives? There's opportunities here. And when Dr. Zelenko talks about an 84% drop in hospitalizations, which leads to a six-fold drop in deaths, or these are numbers that are astronomical. Jack Maxson.
Fivefold, particularly in the elderly and the vulnerable. You have to remember, Zelenko's studies really only looked at people who already had comorbidities. He even says, he's like, hey, if you're a 35-year-old guy, you're coughing, he's like, I'm sending you home with a cup of coffee and a pint of orange juice, right? But you got to do this early, particularly for the vulnerable. The one thing I really appreciate about Dr. Zelenko is he always brings the spiritual into this temporal struggle that we're engaged in. And towards the end of his talk, one of the things that really hit me hard was his description of the fight that we're in, this fight between light and darkness, this fight between America that believes in God and America that believes that our rights are divinely inspired because we are created in the image of God. And then the other side who doesn't believe in God and seeks power and will do whatever is necessary to get it. So in a great way, Dr. Zelenko gave us a heads up on HCQ and what's going on. And I think in a very poignant way, he defined the political struggle that we're in going into November.
Also, we should be in this together as a country and trying to figure this out, right? You don't need to be at each other's throats about science. I mean, the evidence is the evidence, right? You got guys like Harvey Risch. These guys are some of the top people in the country. They're from Yale. Right? This is not some marginal character that's making this stuff up. It's got to be addressed, and it's kind of being dismissed. I do think the politics of it is that it's gotten so controversial that people just don't want to talk about it when the evidence is there. And our point is, I don't see how you really start to organize. We're talking about college sports this morning, right? The Iowa cancels 4 or 5 programs. There's no college football. NBA, of course, they're not playing for other reasons, but even the games don't feel like real games. Right? It's just not the sense. There's no fans. It's obviously America's not back to normal. To get back to normal, you're going to need, I think, hydroxy as a prophylactic and a preventative, and the liability laws work through. So then you have an organized societal approach about how you do this. And then obviously people can make decisions and within that framework, you can make decisions.
Well, they're talking about the liability, right? And the Democrats don't want to eliminate it. Maybe we should do is, hey, give the liability waiver for the businesses, and we'll give you the liability waiver for the failure to apply HCQ in the midst of this crisis.
That may be too big a number right now. I think that's going to be. I don't know if we can go back and do that. I want to come back. Let's go back at clips. What do we have? Give me your top clip from last night, because I want to get back to the RNC. And talk about what's going on. We got we're under 2 minutes here. About hashtag War and Pandemic. You've been fantastic today. The footage is up there. You guys are on top of this. Our own newsroom.
I thought yesterday, in my opinion, the most powerful speech given last night, I believe, was from Rick Grinnell. Rick Grinnell basically gave what sounded like almost like an American Carnage sort of revival sort of speech, but it was very hopeful. And the tell was that CNN, when they do their hits and misses every morning, they put Grinnell in the misses and basically said, "Oh,
how did they say Grinnell missed? That was one of the most powerful speeches of the entire time."
Because they don't want people watching what he said, and it was it was aggressive, brutal. AVN, let's roll this clip 7 right here.
In 4 years, Donald Trump didn't start any new wars. He brought troops home. He rebuilt the military and signed peace deals that make Americans safer. The Washington elites want you to think this kind of foreign policy is immoral, and so they call it nationalist. That tells you all you need to know. The DC crowd thinks when they call Donald Trump a nationalist, they're insulting him. As if the American president isn't supposed to base foreign policy on America's national interests.
Wow, powerful.
I
Great.
can see why they called it a miss, because they don't understand it.
Yeah.
They don't follow that.
But their whole thing was, do not listen to this speech because it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But if you unpack that thing,
well,
it's powerful.
it shows you about the divide. We'll talk about Rick Grinnell, and we'll talk about the international post-war rules-based order, which the CCP gamed the system at the expense of the United States, our money, and our kids, blood and treasure. Back in a moment. I'll bring it back after that.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
So for decades, while Washington politicians built a global system, American wages stagnated. Our great cities and industries were hollowed out. Entire communities were devastated, and our manufacturing plants were shipped off to China. That's what happened when Washington stopped being the capital of the United States and started being the capital of the world.
How did they sit there and say that wasn't worth listening to? I mean, that is the heart of the Trump program. That is populist nationalism right there, given by Rick Grinnell, who did such a fantastic job at DNI.
They're trying to hide it in plain sight.
Talk about action, 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 right?
Well, remember, they told you that you weren't supposed to read the emails back in 2016. They would go through it for you and tell you if there was anything. It's the same thing here.
What Grinnell's was very powerful. It lays out the Trump program. That's what they want to address. And this is what I want to say, that the international, when he says the global system, you hear this thing about the post-war international rules-based order. The nationalist program throughout the world, whether it's in Japan, India, Australia, the United States, Brazil, the allies coming together, this alliance of liberty, is all for the rules-based. They call it the rule of law. What the elites allowed to happen was a post-war international rules-based order that China gamed the system, right? It was their rules. That's why China's changed the entire world. It's not the world. The big fallacy you've been sold for 20 and 30 years is that, oh, we're going to change the Chinese Communist Party. We're going to actually make them as China becomes wealthier, become freer. That was the pitch. As China becomes wealthier, become freer. Note to self, the exact opposite happened. As it became wealthier, it became more totalitarian, more of a dictatorship. And the reason they're gangsters just like the Nazis, just like Mussolini and the fascists, just like the military junta that took over Japan, right? These guys are gangsters, and they think like gangsters and they roll like gangsters. They don't believe in the rule of law, don't believe in their own country. That's why, remember, the people that are it's put upon the most, the rules-based, post-war order is the Chinese people. They're the ones that are essentially enslaved, right? And you're seeing now there's discussions going on around this town to designate the Chinese Communist Party as guilty of genocide in regard to the Uyghurs. Now, genocide is a big term. It hasn't even been. We haven't officially got a genocide on the Armenians with the Turks back at the turn of the last century. I think only Rwanda and in Kosovo, right, where you've had two things that have been designated with certain elements of the Serbian thing, and then the Rwanda with the different groups down there. I think that's the two big. And Pol Pot. So you've had two or three. But it's been a big one. I say, and it was Miles Groh that said this the other day, we ought to say CCP virus. CCP lied. Americans died, Canadians died, Chinese died, everybody died. Is that not genocide? Is the CCP virus, if we find out and finally prove, when we prove it came from the lab in Wuhan, that it's actually a genocide by the Chinese Communist Party? This is what Grinnell lays out. Grinnell lays out, first off, there was an international global system built, right, over the last 30 or 40 years. And he said, the United States, this is like I said about Macron when he was running against Marine Le Pen. You know, Macron believes in his nation has a capital. It just happens to be in Brussels, right? Not in Paris, because he wanted to be president. He basically wants to be the leader of the EU, not so much France. One of these borderless societies. Grinnell nails it first with the globalization, and then comes back with the nationalism and throws it up in their face like. You think this is a bad thing. This is what the President of the United States is supposed to be. He's supposed to be responsible for the interests of the United States. And in doing that, that will dovetail into the interest of our allies. That's what the Alliance of Liberty is about. Modi, trust me, Modi, Abe, Morrison in Australia, the littoral nations of the South China, the Filipinos, when they said the other day, hey, if the Chinese Navy comes to us, we're going to call the American Navy, okay? They're not complaining about President Trump's America first national security policy. The other one, he puts the dagger in the heart in. This is why they don't address it. He started no wars, right? Hillary and these neocons, they're always quick on the trigger, and you can have your own opinions about John Bolton, but that was one thing with John Bolton. And my point is they fall back on a playbook, and you see this with Richard Haas all the time. They talk about diplomacy and military. They don't understand in today's world, it's information and technology in economics. Those are the tools of geoeconomics. That's statecraft, right? That's why Natalie Winters gets it, right? She's sitting up there, at 24 years old, saying, "Hey, you better focus on this TikTok thing. You better focus on the Confucius Institutes, all these schools." In fact, to let you know that we do connect dots here, Jack Maxey's got some breaking news, even as we speak on that topic, don't you, Jack?
Which one is this?
On Microsoft.
Oh, yeah, Microsoft.
Jack, it helps if you pay attention to my dialogues.
No. I was getting lost there on which we're talking about. No, this is super interesting.
So is the audience.
American.
That's why I brought you in.
This is the American people. These are two basically huge American companies. Institutions. Microsoft and Walmart, according to CNBC just 15 minutes ago, are now in negotiations to partnership in the purchase of TikTok. I mean, if things couldn't get stranger.
When was the last time that Microsoft... No, it doesn't get strange. It's absolutely part of the industrial logic. They're not American companies anymore. They're not American companies. They're thinking of the global marketplace, and they're thinking particularly China. Hey, why don't I buy this TikTok and I get better access into China? I can get the data myself. When was the last time Microsoft had a big announcement like this on a partnership?
Right.
That would be the birth of MSNBC. Microsoft NBC. That was the combo that gave you the Rachel Maddow channel today. So when they partner, good things for the conservatives don't happen. Okay, so I don't anticipate. I think the Microsoft Walmart already. MS Mart, right? I already don't like it, right? And so now I think here's a simple thing. And I think hopefully the TikTok guy signaled it last night. The president of the United States should just stop this auction and just shut it down, right? Just a hard shutdown. Yeah. And then we got to get to WeChat. WeChat's even the worst one, right? WeChat, Weibo, all of them. And here's the thing. As the guys tell you all the time about the firewall, the Chinese people tell us all the time about firewall. Once you tear down the firewall and stop all this, Alibaba, WeChat, Weibo, they're all going to go away. If the president wants the stock market to be on fire, and I think it's too weighted to a bunch of large cap tech companies, however, you could double. Right? Because everybody will tell you, every Chinese guy it's the next page said, there's not one person in China, if you take down the firewall, will use Alibaba over Amazon. Right? They will run as fast as they can away from these national champions because all the information is going right to, and people say, Harvard came out the other day with a study, 93% of the people support the CCP. Dude, you're going to have to go door to door and make sure you got a blindfold on to get a real count there. They're not going to put it on.
Well, this is one of the awful things. You see Harvard does an online study to see what the tenor is about the CCP inside China, right? It's like when they call up and ask you if you're voting for Biden. Yes.
Actually, it's a great point you bring up, Steve. Through my many travels and through my time in New York.
Your many travels around Staten Island. We're going to get a broader perspective than that.
Basically. So I have a friend who kind of gets into this interesting business of exporting Benzes to China. And they do this in a not very clear, doesn't seem to be, there's like a gray area in terms of tariffs and how you get those cars over there. But I asked him, why do these folks buy Benzes? They can buy Benzes
By the way,
in China.
Our audiences are not gangbangers. Our audience calls them Mercedes.
Yeah.
Okay? Benzes. Just remember who the audience is. A Benz is a Mercedes, correct?
Yes, a Mercedes Benz. So I'm wondering why are folks in China buying Mercedes from America? They can buy, on the mainland itself. And what he told me was that there's actually a gap in the safety quality from the cars, and he sent me videos of crash tests from the cars of a Chinese car doing the crash test, and then a Chinese-made car and an American-made car. The difference is why.
This is also one. This gets to a deeper point, and that deeper point is for years we sat there in the Republican Party and you heard in the platform and on the stage for decades, free trade, free trade, free trade, free trade. There's no free trade. Even Adam Smith said there's no free trade with a totalitarian mercantilist system. They're the East India Company, right? The British East India Company. It's a mercantilist system, completely closed, and they've got a million different ways of what Peter Navarro calls non-trade barriers. Grinnell wraps it up there, says, hey, they shipped all the jobs over to China, and that's why you're now dependent on this is all about low-paying jobs. That's why immigration, I'd like to see a little more of immigration. Miriam Mendoza, who's fantastic, a real rock star with Angel Moms, I guess inadvertently or somehow tweeted out something, hadn't read the whole stream. And this should tell you, when you're getting ready to talk at the RNC, just go easy on the trigger on the tweets on the afternoon that you're going to talk, right? She was fantastic. And because of that, we haven't got an Angel Mom up there, which the Angel Mom movement, remember in 2016, the Democrats talk about mainstream media not covering something. I think it was Monday or Tuesday, the Angel Moms came up and they was just, they went to a test pattern. They will never show. Yep. They will never show an Angel Mom.
A couple of things to correct here. Number one, Natalie Winters is 20, not 24.
She's 20. Wow.
Yep. Number two, it's Mercedes-Benz, not Benz. And number three, you forgot one of the big Microsoft ventures from 2017 was Windows 10 China Government Edition.
Exactly.
Remember that.
Talk about that.
Remember that. Well, we actually have a story going up on the Pulse today about just that as the Microsoft bid for TikTok heats up. We have to remember that that Microsoft was more than willing to partner with the Chinese Communist Party to establish a very highly restrictive version of Windows 10 that would only work with certain things, so that certain things couldn't be accessed. It is a very specific ecosystem that was developed in part with Chinese Communist Party linked companies themselves, in addition to Microsoft. I think Lenovo was a part of that as well. So we'll have that. We'll have all the details on that story later on today.
What else do we got? About 2 minutes here. I want to get any more. We had some great polls for the RNC. There was so much great stuff on last night for the RNC.
So what I really liked about what I saw of last night, because I didn't watch the whole thing end to end like I have done the previous 2 days, but what I liked from what I saw on the clips and on the response to this is the hawks and the doves last night. The China hawks. But the people who realize that the way to defeat China isn't a kinetic war, and the people who realize and said overtly that President Trump is not a hawk, he's not going around the world.
General Keith Kellogg.
General
was one of the most
Kellogg,
powerful. I thought his thing was.
Rand Paul.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
He said, but President Trump is President Trump is not a hawk. Do we have that poll?
Let's play clip 1 right now.
Yeah, I think we have Rand Paul
okay,
here.
Let's play Rand Paul and then we'll play Kellogg. Okay, whatever way AVN wants to do it.
I'm proud to finally see a president who agrees with that. Compare President Trump with the disastrous record of Joe Biden, who's consistently called for more war. Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War, which President Trump has long called the worst geopolitical mistake of our generation. I fear Biden will choose war again. He supported the war in Serbia, Syria, Libya. Joe Biden will continue to spill our blood and treasure. President Trump will bring our heroes home.
We don't have enough time in this segment
come back
to get to General Kellogg, but I want to open with that when we come back from the breaks.
Yeah, tell you what, this is very powerful. Remember, Trump, being a businessman, understands information war and technology war, and also economic war. You don't need to go kinetic. South China Sea, you got to tell the CCP that they just lit off a couple of missiles there yesterday, trying to intimidate everybody. But if you win in the first two, you don't have to get to the kinetic. Going to return with General Keith Kellogg and other highlights of the RNC in just a second. War and pandemic.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
President Trump challenged and continues to challenge an ever increasingly provocative and militant China. But make no mistake, President Trump is no hawk. He wisely wields the sword when required, but believes in seeking peace instead of perpetual conflict. Just over a week ago, our president brokered a peace agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Israel, the first in the Middle East in over 25 years. And this week, Afghan negotiators, with help from American officials, will start peace negotiations between the Taliban and the Afghan government to end America's longest war.
A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash in the middle of the night. Well, you see, President Trump also sent an aircraft in the middle of the night to deal with Iran. But that plane was on a different mission. An airstrike to take out the head of Iran's terror machine who plotted the deaths of Americans.
Yeah, different president, different payload, right? not there to deliver the cash money, as Vish would call it. Not there to deliver cash money, but to deliver a heat-seeking missile that took out Soleimani. General, you may not know about General Kellogg. He's very low key. He's 82nd Airborne, has served his country after West Point from Vietnam all the way to the deserts of the Middle East, and know what he speaks. Donald Trump is not a hawk. What he means by that is Donald Trump's not going to be sending your sons and daughters, over hell's half acre to fight in these wars that we don't really know the outcomes of. Remember, in Iraq and Afghanistan right now, I think the combat time in Afghanistan has been longer than the combat histories of, I think, everything starting from the Revolution. Or it's getting pretty close. The Revolution, Civil War, World War I, World War II, maybe even Vietnam. I think you throw that in there and take the combat time. Yeah. That's how long I've been there. And with at Brown University, they've done the study there that shows somewhere between $7 and $9 trillion when you count in the present value of all the injuries. And you see guys. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Brian Kolfage, a hero, an American hero, total American hero. He became a triple amputee over there. You see these triple amputees, and they come back here, and it's the net present value of all the VA, of the housing, of all of it. So, and Grinnell's laying out different, and Kellogg are laying out different. Trump will drop the hammer when the hammer has to be dropped, and do it in a smart way. He focuses on information warfare, and he focuses on economic warfare. That's what they're talking today about. Sanctions. I think the FBI just picked up some guys in, I think it was in Texas, selling oil to the Iranian regime that was sanctioned. Go ahead, Raheem.
No, I just want to break in with some news because it is important for the people down there in Louisiana at the moment in the wake of Hurricane Laura and everything that's been going on down there. We brought you images of the chemical plant and the fire there. Weather Nation has an important update. People who live nearby are being asked to shelter in place, close all doors and windows, and shut off their air conditioning. So just make sure that if you're in that vicinity, anywhere near Lake Charles, if you're anywhere near that fire, make sure you're shutting your doors and windows, sheltering in place, and shutting off your air conditioning.
Okay, give that to us one more time. Tell this is important for all of our audience, and if you got friends down there, pass the word. But what are they saying right now, Raheem?
Yeah, there is a chemical fire in that area. and authorities are saying that you need to shelter in place, do not go outside, close all your doors and your windows, and turn off air conditioning. I'm sure that locals are getting local alerts as well. Make sure you have local alerts on your phone. Make sure you're getting them on Weather Nation as well, and updates there. But this is critical to make sure that we limit the damage here.
How do people get to Weather Nation, the sister channel of AVN, Vish?
You can either download the Weather Nation app, go to weathernationtv.com, also on all platforms, Roku, Pluto, Dish, ubiquitous as well.
And all on all social media accounts as well. They're breaking the news and bringing updates there as well. I want to get back to something you were just saying as well, while I have the microphone. Remember, everybody said in, what was it, last year when the Iran stuff was really going down, Washington Post and Defense One and TheNation.com, I'm going to read you these headlines. Will Trump wag the dog to win re-election? Would Trump start a war to boost his 2020 chances? Would Trump go to war with Iran to get re-elected? If there's anything we can learn from last night at the RNC, the way that they were talking about President Trump from a national security and America first foreign policy perspective, is that these prognostications by the establishment media were not just outright falsehoods, but it proves how far they've got their head in the clouds. They do not understand his foreign policy much as they don't understand his domestic policy.
Look, the hashtag War Room Pandemic crowd has smoked out Biden. You know, they made this claim about, everything Trump's saying about the pandemic's a lie. They're doing a pre-buttal. Senator Harris is en route to do it this afternoon. Also now in China. They've been for 4 days, and you're going to hear Tom Cotton and Rudy Giuliani in the president night. I'm sure it's going to be hammer time on the CCP. I imagine Tom Cotton is being touted as a real beatdown on Biden as far as his leadership goes, particularly against the Chinese Communist Party. The Republican Party, I think, has done a fantastic job from different branches of it, saying, hey, Chinese CCP virus, China's responsible for this. New day with China, we're going to confront them. They've stolen our jobs. The CCP has done all this. He had a dissident last night saying the Chinese Communist Party is the enemy of humanity, And he's a guy that's got, in the hardcore freedom movement, he's got a little dicey, he's not 100%. There's all these conflicts. He's not 100%, as pristine as some of these guys are. But he's still on national TV and said that. It's been repeated over and over again. The Chinese Communist Party lied. People died. The Chinese Communist Party is guilty of a genocide with this virus. Do we have enough time to play Marsha Blackburn? Do we have enough? Let's finish with Marsha Blackburn.
Clip 15.
Let's roll this
and
out.
take us out. Yep.
Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and their radical allies try to destroy these heroes because if there are no heroes to inspire us, government can control us. They close our churches, but keep the liquor stores and abortion clinics open. They say we can't gather in community groups, but encourage protest, riots, and looting in the streets. If the Democrats had their way, they would keep you locked in your house until you become dependent on the government for everything. That sounds a lot like communist China to me. Maybe that's why Joe Biden is so soft on them. Why Nancy Pelosi says that China would prefer Joe Biden. Yep, I bet they would.